big blue button. And 1, 2, 3, 4, you're live. Hello, welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show going on with my co-host Lucky Stone and our guest Zigzagzilla. Welcome. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And tonight we're going to be talking about all kinds of good stuff from the metaverse, the microverse, and life after death, as I know all of you like to hear about. Zigzag, you've been talking about this on your channel for quite a while. And this last one I listened to, you were talking about how, each one of our cells, and we're living in the death realm. And, literally the day you're born, you're ready to die. You're going down that path the whole entire time. And then each one of our cells is a little microverse in itself. It's living, and then we're made up of all these bacteria and things. Who are we? Are we some kind of crazy aliens or what?
Well, if you really dissect and break down your body, man, in simplistic form, you're nothing but like a bunch of cells and then like two major fluids. But, just looking at it from, a bacterial and the viral world, you are basically, your viruses that inhabit or make up your human body actually outnumber the amount of bacteria literally by 10 times. So you are barely human, to be honest with you. And then, when you look at it from, a micro macro level, and then we look at the stars up above, everything is just like you're looking at yourself, so that's why I've been talking about that. And I'll definitely get into the death stuff and how even that we look at it from a religious standpoint, but that in and of itself, we're having many experiences of that all the time. And sometimes we're aware of it and sometimes we're not. But the whole purpose of that is evolution. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole purpose of everything.
Mm-hmm. So this is my big question of the night, kind of, because I've been studying a lot of stuff, and everybody knows I've been researching a little bit of Dolores Cannon. And Nina and me talked about her, and we did some stuff with Agnos, and he was talking about our higher self, which catch us on Sunday night over at Nina's channel. We'll be having a special going through the book tomorrow. So that'll be at 8 p.m. Central time, and so check us out. We'll be over there. But here's the thing: is so we live in this meat suit body that's made up of all kinds of bacteria and things like that, and then our spirit is driving the bus. So then I named the show The Multiverse because I feel it got channeled to me. I swear it got channeled to me. Nice. And because I was sitting here at the desk and I was planning on doing something, and I sat down and popped into my brain, and I said, that's what, and then I thought, what is that going to be about? Yeah. And I swear Brian is out there and he's helping me along with this. But anyway, he's always helping me with this stuff, and I don't know why he came up with this, but here's the point. The point is that are we literally aliens, our soul, our spirit, or whatever you want to call it, living from the multiverse, coming here, and then driving the bus of this animal thing that I inhabit, this body, which I assume is really me, but I am not me. I'm this other thing that's inhabiting this meat suit body, which would probably not be very viable or wouldn't be able to function and do much if I wasn't inhabiting it. You see what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this. What is your definition of a soul and a spirit?
God, yes. That's the thing, that every time people use those words, I need to know what they mean, not what I think it means, but what they mean.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We want to try to get out of a religious mindset.
Yes.
That's why even when we use analogies and whatnot, we always anthropomorphize things just so that it makes it digestible for us to understand. So, for example, we're looking at a computer. Everything at that point beforehand would be just ones and zeros. You're in a Wi-Fi frequency that we connect to, and then what happens is that we use the motherboard on a search engine, and depending on what we are searching, everything gets decoded and broken down for you to understand what it is that you're looking at. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I'm asking, like, what is the definition of a soul and a spirit to you? It's just an example. I just need to know before I even like go any further with that.
It would be, well, a soul or spirit. Yeah, and I do refer to that because that's what everybody understands. Is an energy being that I would say that's I would say an energy being that contains knowledge, that's living, that's able to make decisions and store.
What kind of knowledge?
Well, any knowledge, I guess. I mean, all of what my experiences of knowledge. To you know, my if I read a book, it's stored in my energy. It's not really stored in my brain. It would be stored in my energy. Kind of like you got a computer, though. You know, you got your computer, and where is that information stored? It's on a hard drive somewhere, or in some kind of electrical part, I guess. But I guess right now it's all being stored inside me. Right? Yeah. But when I leave, I take that up to the hard drive somewhere.
And what about spirit?
I don't know. Is there a difference? I think is the spirit. See, that's always the big frustrating thing. Is the spirit the energy, or is it the soul that's the energy and this body connected?
See, this is you know why I even asked this is because, let's say, for example, we get into a bunch of studies and whatnot, but we don't know exactly where that starting point is. Then where are we actually coming from when we come down to the knowledge that we look at? We start looking at it outside of ourselves rather than internalizing the information and saying, okay, this is a story about me to some extent. So let's say, for example, I'll look at the soul. I look at the soul like solo. I have my own individuality as an individual, yet I'm not really that individual. So like if I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I appear to be an individual, but I am actually trillions of cells, like we just talked about it before, right? These trillions of cells have their own individual functions. This is what you were talking about when I was talking about it in my videos on my channel. So they have a respiratory, an excretory function. They even have their own immune system. These cells also have organ-like organelles, which is crazy. So if you look at it, their own individual sentient experience. But the government for those cells is the mind of the individual that's operating it, right? So when you look at it from this perspective, my perspective of life determines what the expression of these cells or what's going to happen in the body as far as like chemical imbalances or balances. So if we look at it from an individual standpoint, I'm having my individual experience. However, all the things that I see outside of me, my spirit would be my space, but the space that I have outside of me is nothing but what resides within me, and I'm actually collapsing it into existence depending on the vibration that I'm in. So let's say, for example, when we talk about an aura, you know what I'm saying? An aura is technically a bacterial cloud, you know what I'm saying? And when you look at this aura, it's a bacterial cloud. The colors, all these things that we talk about, oh, man is made of all these elements. The elements are basically iron, nickel, cobalt, zinc, and nickel, you know what I'm saying? And some of them have magnetic properties to them. Some could be considered more of a feminine side of chemistry. The other ones will be more of like a masculine side of chemistry. However, if I'm looking at it where the stars, like I've mentioned this in my channel, I'm trying to make this make sense as far as like on a quantum level to like where we're at in a physical level. So we look at these stars. There's a study called astrology, and these stars and planets have influence on humanity as far as on an energetic level, right? So we look at the patterns, we look at the movements and whatnot, and then we say, okay, we're decoding something, and we're in a certain space where we say, this is the time. And you know, like even during gardening, you know how during a full moon you tend to garden and whatnot. So there'd be certain times where you may make certain choices and decisions, or you may be guided by the stars. But at the end of the day, it's like you can look at it from two ways. I can look at that, but still control my reality to an extent where if it's a situation or energy that may be unfavorable to me, I have the ability with knowledge now to neutralize that, right? So you're kind of getting into the spirit, kind of like you're in a season. People say get into the spirit of Christmas. Why do they say that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is Christmas for me to say I have to get into the spirit of that? But the stars, when you look at the word influenza, the word influenza came from the word influence, and the short word for that is flu. So that means influence from the stars. So besides it being on an energetic level, the influence from the stars, we get this flu, that we get from that, which is basically on a microbial and bacterial level, or the viral kingdom. The viruses, for example, are something that is there, but it's responsible for the evolution of you as an individual to be here, to have this experience, to say I'm evolved and I have dominion over this planet. So if you look at it from that aspect outside of you, these stars are a mirror reflection of all the cells that we have within us. So the people that I come in contact with, I may attract angry people, I may attract intellectual people, I may attract people of like minds, but it's all going to be dependent on the space that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm into that spirit. So I'm in like they say, get into the spirit of Christmas. If I'm into a certain spirit, the spirit is my environment, my space. The people, places, and things are my spirit. That's why they say God is in all things. As an individual, I'm a soul having a vibrational state. I'm having an experience. I look at soul like fluid and whatnot. Your body's made of water. The earth, what is the earth made of? Majority water. We have so many similarities to the earth, to the planets and all that we look at. Is basically literally as within, so without. I've made the examples with gardening, from the soil to the ecosystem up above. So I hope that answers a portion of what we're talking about here, but I also want to talk about how that has to do with death later,
Well, yeah, absolutely. Lucky, you got anything to input on that?
No. There's a lot to carry with that, and anything that I say will put us on a tangent we don't need to be on, because there's a lot to unpack with that.
Yep.
So much. And my ideas of what soul and spirit is what I have been battling, honestly. And I talk to spirits all the time, but I still am constantly going back and forth on spirit and soul. But I think I have an idea on it, but I think the soul is more conscious while the spirit is more, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I'm not really sure myself. It goes so much into that. Those two words are used interchangeably. They shouldn't be. But again, when you're talking to someone, you have to find out what their perception of those words are before you can have a full conversation.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. You know how when we talk about, the planets and all that influences, and that we're here on we're bound by time to some extent, right? And that's all depending on the heart rate frequency. Sometimes I ponder on this and I'm like, well, if these stars, depending on their positions and space and whatnot, if they're influencing us, are we looking at something or an aspect of ourselves in the future, and we're still living in the past to some extent, that we're able to say this may be something that I can use to maneuver myself in this realm as a blueprint? So in actuality, when we look at viruses, you can't even observe them under an invisible microscope. So when we look at like spirit realm and whatnot, this could be a copy of a reality that would be more defined, or what we would consider real, than what this actually is. We're in like a copy of the original blueprint, you know what I'm saying? And then we look at the we call it blueprint for a reason. Why are we calling it blueprint? It just brings up these things where we look at like blue lights outside now and whatnot. And I made videos on that. I have my own like little perception when it comes to that. But you notice how when we come out, for example, all the viral kingdom is like all over us, right? But it's also within us. So we have all the viruses known to man, right? So on a quantum level, since you can't see these are considered metaphysical aspects of what we're made of. And when we talk about trillions of cells, I look at different communities outside of me, like round earth, flat earth, vegans, carnivore, all these communities, right? But yet they have their own different points of views. They are held together up until there's an opposing point, and then all of a sudden, like, you're not, you're not in frequency with that community anymore. So let's say, for example, our body, we have so many different aspects of us, but what holds our body together is basically one force. So we're still one. That's kind of like I see everything outside of me as we are all still one, yet we are under this illusion of separation. Does that make sense to you? As far as like how I see like the spirit realm and whatnot, like the spirits, I've seen spirits, but I also believe it's a parallel reality, because there was a point where I'm laying in my mom's bed when I went to go visit her, and I could have sworn my eyes were open the entire time. I was like absolutely aware. And I just seen a hand at the window, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm on the 3rd floor. How the hell is it possible? So that thought came to mind, and then that's what made me go, like, I opened my eyes. It wasn't like scary, but I was startled. But upon opening my eyes, what's crazy is my eyes were closed the whole time, but exactly the position of where the window should be and whatnot, everything was perfectly positioned where it should be upon me opening my eyes. The only thing that disappeared was that hand that was on the window, and it was so clear. Everything was just so clear when it happened. But people say, oh, were you dreaming or did you fall asleep? But I didn't fall asleep. You know what I'm saying? That was an actual it was an actual experience, an actual event, and then I'm like, did I align with my time? Was it that I got off that time? Because sometimes I'll meditate and I feel like I've been there for 4.5 hours and it's only been 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Or time, just you lose that perception of time. So that's why I ask about the stars, the planets, the position you're in now, and if there is a misalignment to the fact that the stars and the planets are in a space a little bit ahead of us, where we are a little bit more in a slower state, lower vibrationalist or lower density, so our time is slower.
Yeah, well, and then that's the thing too. Can you change? Are things changing? I swear that in my mind, certain things were one way. They always talk about this Mandela effect. Maybe not on a big scale, but on the micro scale, things in my life have changed. And I swear I remember them a different way, like different days of birthdays or different days of people's names.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, I don't remember it like that. Is it just me? Or is it something else has changed? I don't get it.
Can you remember back when those things were the other way? Were they 20 years ago or were they recent?
Recent.
So, no, I mean, let's just say, sake of argument, you knew somebody and their birthday was April 5th. And you remember going to their birthday party in, let's say, 2000 on April 5th. But now they say their birthday is April 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, wait, why is it the 15th now, but 20 years ago was April 5th? Yeah. I have experiences like that. And I'm saying to myself, why? Why are these happening? Why? And then I go, do I want to talk about this?
Yeah, and then you just brush it off because you think, well, maybe I was just mistaken. Because I just had that happen where I swear I remember somebody's birthday being in February, and now it's in January. I swear I remember somebody calling themselves just as simple as this friend, and it was actually my buddy's ex-girlfriend, but we called her Andrea, and now she says everybody always called me Andy, and I never remember calling her Andy. I always remember calling her Andrea. Nobody ever called her Andy. And then I remember this friend of mine, he's got a birthday in February. I know it was February. I used to say, and now he's like, oh yeah, it was the other day. Like, January? And it's just like, I don't remember many birthdays, but
Well, you know what? I had one big one, because I remember this one so well because I was a little kid always saying this, right? So I used to watch Star Wars, and I still am a big Star Wars head. And I remember, I mean, I've been, my favorite character has always been Darth Vader. There is no possible way in hell that anybody's going to tell me that it wasn't this way. But I remember I used to run around in my underwear as a little kid going, Luke, I am your father. And then now all of a sudden it's not said like that anymore. It's, no, I am your father. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. I remember I used to be like, Luke. I used to say the name a certain way, like Luke.
Yeah.
I
Luke.
am your father.
Yeah, it used to
Yeah.
be Luke. I am
Now
your
they said that it
father.
was no, and then I went to watch the movie because it was driving me nuts. So I had to literally go back and watch the movie, and it was like he says no. I'm like, nah, bro, this shit is crazy. So there's that's why I said like it may be time, or maybe even the present could be manipulated just based on, like I said, that delay of time that we have between what we see outside of us. But you ever heard that I forgot how this really goes, but they say that your brain already has the future set before you even make a proper decision at that moment. Have you heard
Yeah.
of something like that? I forgot how that. I've heard something like that before.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, well, we're living in our head, we're living here, our reality's projected from when it is. Then it makes a lot of sense that what we're looking at is still at a certain time delay, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is so many people remember that too. Nina's in there saying, I remember Luke as well.
Yeah,
Well,
Nina, that's right.
that's right.
Oh yeah.
Well, but see, that's the thing. A lot of people remember that, and it's like, see, big things like that can get everybody. But if your friend's birthday or the name changes, or things like that in your own little life, do you pass it by? Is the world changing around us? And like you said, we're living in a big video game computer thing where, who are we? And is things changing? Remember that movie where I forget what the guy's name was, and every time and it was Dark City, I think it was called Dark City. You ever see Dark City? Where the buildings were changing at night and they would move things around. They were aliens trying to experiment on people, and Dark City. Check out
Yeah,
Dark
I gotta
City.
check that out. It sounds interesting, especially anything that has
Yeah,
to
I
do with
was
aliens.
I can't think of that guy. Remember the guy who played on 24?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Kiefer Sullivan. Kiefer
Keith,
Sullivan.
that's the guy.
Kiefer
Kiefer
Sutherland.
Sullivan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sutherland. Yeah. He played in that movie. And the buildings would change, and then the people would stop, and they would give them shots and wipe their memory, and then they'd move the buildings around, and the old people or the rich people would become poor people, and they would see the effects on them and things like that. It's really kind of a cool movie. Dark City.
Hey, have you
Uh,
ever seen I watched this video on YouTube. It's like about 12 minutes long, but it's titled Back to the Future Predicts 911. If you haven't seen that, man, it's I mean, till this moment, I mean, I watched it a little while ago and I'm still mind blown by when I see it, but it literally and one of my favorite movies was Back to the Future.
I
But
love
until
Back
I
to the
saw this
Future.
documentary and I started to see how it literally predicted it so
Yep.
accurately, it's insane. I gotta send it to you, man. Actually, I'll send it to you so that you can probably share that.
Yeah.
If you have a chance the next time it's for your viewers to watch, because I'm mind blown every time I see it.
Mhm.
It's too accurate. You know what I'm saying? It's just way too accurate. I'm like,
Yeah.
how that? And they made another movie 30 years later just to segue off Back to the Future and the events that's happening now. And even when you look at the title, Back to the Future, just the title alone, and you're looking at the actual movie and what it's about and how we're actually experiencing our life to the movie that they came out with 30 years later called The Wire.
Mhm.
It's mind blowing, bro. I'm telling you. I don't know if
Well,
anybody has seen that, but
yeah, I haven't seen that one.
yeah.
Huh. I'll have to check that one out. But see, that's the thing. We're living in this crazy universe, or crazy world, and we're all experiencing our own thing. You can't worry about somebody else's life or something like that. You got to think about your own, because it's our own little bubble, our own little experience. And like you said there too, is our future predicted out, and do we have free will to choose different things? But certain things might be set in stone. That's the way I look at it. Like 9/11, that was set in stone. Everything else can change, but that part will always remain the same. You see what I'm saying? Those big events. So you may have free will to change your life around, but those big events will always keep happening in every multiverse thing that comes up. So that's what I'm so like are we so once we die, our body dies and we go to the other side, are we just signing up to be characters in a play? Here's take on this meat suit and have this experience. Sure, I'll jump right in and away I go. Or do they, or maybe not? I don't know.
You said you were studying a lot about the afterlife and stuff like that. You heard a lot about Dolores Cannon and whatnot.
Yes.
What is so just in like your words, what's the definition of death?
The leaving this meat suit body behind and going to the other side. That would be, you really don't die at all. You just this part of you, the meat suit, dies in this realm, in the physical 3D world, but your energy's always carried on. And then and then you go back there and you do it all. I don't know what happens after that technically. I mean, they all got their different versions of, well, you get judged, or you go to school, or see, this is the part I don't understand. I listened to that guy who did Journey of Souls, and he described pretty much the same things Dolores Cannon did, and it's like, oh yeah, you go there, you could do this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. But at some point they round you up and say, hey, it's time for you to go and have another life experience. And you pick out some kind of person that you want to be. They flash the future in front of your face and say, okay, here's your person that you need to have these experiences. Here's your contract. And when she said contract, and so did the other guy from Journey of Souls, he said, you got to sign up and get this contract, and then you pick out these, and then you sit in this machine or this light or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So as a soul or a spirit on the other side, what am I signing documents for? I mean, if it's all, poofy energy out there and I'm just a floaty being, why is there, tunnels, and why is there machine looking things? Why are there other people judging me? If you know what I'm saying? What is going on there? Is there another realm of people in the fifth dimension that we just don't see, that are just toying with all of us here? That's kind of the thing I'm thinking of. Those are my questions to you.
Well, okay, so let me start with this part, because this is a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, man. I do a lot of just real deep pondering on this, and I do this, had experiences through meditation where I can say I've experienced maybe a light death, right?
Yeah.
When you're in your mom's womb, right? You're connected to your mom by an umbilical cord, right? And you're having an experience in there. However, how do you know that you didn't have an actual experience inside your mom's womb the same way you're having an experience here, right? Just like when you come out your mom's womb, they cut the umbilical cord. So you're now detached from that flesh suit, and you're here now in this experience attached to an etheric cord. Because I've had out of body experiences, and if your body is, that etheric body is attached to a silver cord to this environment that we're in, right? So supposedly when you die, they cut this etheric cord. The etheric cord is detached, right? So when we start to ask, okay, well, what happens after death? Like when we were in our mom's womb, we're only there for 9 months, right? If you look at the life of a bug, it's probably about 9 months as well, or maybe 6-7 months. They had a total sentient experience. It was a whole lifetime that was only 6 to 7 months. We're here, and our lifespan, supposedly we have the ability to live a much longer life than we do now. But they start to talk about the telomeres and whatnot, which I'm not going to get into that now. But look at it from this perspective, all right? You have many deaths every day that you're living. So let's say you're in a relationship, right? And there's why I mentioned that it's all about evolution at the beginning of this whole conversation. If you are in a relationship with a toxic girlfriend, right? You break up with this girlfriend because you know that it's not serving you. You could do one or two things. You can either neutralize the situation, become aware of the fact that, most of the stuff that triggers you about her is probably a reflection of you. You know what I'm saying? or if it's beyond measures or it's something that's not serving you, you could disconnect.
Mhm.
I've had conversations with people where they say, I deaded that relationship, that, I'm done with that girl. Or if you're in an abusive relationship where your man beats you up, or, your man cheats on you, and all these things, there's aspects of you that are attracting that into your life, because you don't see the world for how it is. You see the world for how you are. You attract what you are. That's what happens. So let's say, for example, I break up with that girl, or if you're a girl and you break up with that guy, and you haven't changed yourself, you'll attract the same person in another body. You get what I'm saying? So what's happening here? You didn't change, so you attract what you are. So if I become aware of the fact that I'm in that relationship because that's just a version of how I am, then
Mhm.
I'm just going to be in the same situation.
Yeah.
When I start to think about this whole reincarnation thing and whatnot, it's about evolution. But this whole evolutionary process, there's science book about this, and I'm gonna make a live stream that I was talking about in my videos, that I have a lot of notes prepped up on it that I've been like doing. But the whole death process happens predominantly at death because of the fact that there's a specific chemical called dimethyltryptamine, where a lot of people do this DMT through plant medicines and they experience some form of death, right? However, you have a small light level death every time that you go to sleep. So a lot of people go to sleep, but they don't even realize they're in an experience until they wake up and realize, oh, I was just in a dream. You literally merged from one experience, which is here in your waking state, to a dream state, and didn't even realize it shifted. Everything felt exactly normal. The people you're talking to, situations that are happening, they even feel so real that you may actually experience real emotions like fear. If it's a nightmare and whatnot, and you wake up, you're like, oh, thank God it's just a nightmare. But did you experience that merging process? No. So now the point of the evolution and whatnot is to evolve yourself as an individual. When people say embrace the cosmos, it's for that reason, because the viruses, notice how when you come into this existence, the main thing they focus on is to poke you, get vaccinated. In order for you to go to school, you have to be vaccinated. I'm being very careful with the words so we don't get in trouble. But these are things I'm allowed to talk about. I'm just letting you know. So, and it's a book of vaccines that you got to get. Vaccine, every fucking, and it's like a bookload of them. Like literally, you have to get 72 vaccines as a child. So, Mr. Fauci himself, the man who basically has this patented with the, what I'm talking about, said in one of his older videos, and I actually posted it in my recent video in the description. Did you see that? He clearly said himself that the ultimate protection against any diseases outside of you is your own symptoms that arise within you. You do not need to get vaccinated. But then now all of a sudden, when it becomes a business, now it's in the interest of a profit. Now the stories change and say, no, you are mandated to get this. It's your responsibility, because now you're being a menace to society, or you're being a terror or a danger to everybody around you. So they play this guilt trip on you, playing on your heartstrings and whatnot. A lot of people then get into the area where they want to be starting policing you and whatnot. So, but notice this, all these viruses you already have within you. I'm talking about viruses that predate Egyptian history. So if viruses are in a large part responsible for the evolution of your species, and yeah, there's gnarly bad viruses, but there's also very good viruses. We call those bacteriophage. That's what they're called. These are the ones that you don't catch viruses. What there is, there's a union that happens. There's something called horizontal gene transfer, which I'm going to talk about in my live and whatnot. But there's also what we have junk DNA. These viruses are meant to jumpstart your systems to basically help you with that evolutionary process. If we are suppressing, like when we take medications, we're not treating the cause of a symptom. All we're doing is we're just suppressing symptoms. So whenever we are trying to look at it from the standpoint, when we're trying to evolve, we're just staying capped at where we're at, because we are actually just intaking something that's laboratory made and not made from what we come from. You hear this in the Bible. Man comes from the soil, he dies, he goes back to the soil. So you're like walking nature. But from the moment you come into this world, everything is all about disconnecting you from you. The way you put on these rubber shoes on your feet, you don't know the land. The herbs that grow in your garden to some extent actually know you better than you know yourself. That's why sometimes you may have certain weeds that come out just to cater to the deficiencies of your body, but instead you're being told that you have to kill those weeds because you don't know any better. So then you just keep the grass there because it looks aesthetically pleasing. You know what I'm saying? Just like we look at demons, we say this is not aesthetically pleasing. But whenever we have these imbalances within us, and you have a sensitive person that may have a perception of reality where they can see beyond this realm and they see demons, they start to look at that and say that's bad. But in actuality, that's an aspect of you that's showing you what's within you, draining you of what you have, and you're feeding it with either your inflammatory attitudes, with your inflammatory foods, or with your fear. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's literally everything is as within, so without. The virus, you're taught to basically fear this. You get what I'm saying? But whenever you develop these flu-like symptoms, these are technically supposed to be a master like opportunity for you to go into detox, because this is the highest standard of detox for the body. So when you're in bed with fevers, mucus, vomiting, diarrhea, you are technically healing. You were sick before you got that. You get what I'm saying? You're actually sick now, walking every day. Notice how people swear that they're healthy, but the moment you start to, you know, let's say stir the waters up a little bit. For example, if I start to put you through a detox protocol like grapes and watermelons and whatnot, you may trip yourself into a flu-like symptom, because now your body is now redirecting that energy to purge those things out. When you do shadow work never feels really good. Shadow work will put you could be living your life where you think everything's good, but you got so many shadow aspects of yourself that prevent you from evolving. So sometimes we start to get into spirituality, do shadow work, and now our life becomes chaos. But then we look at that from the perspective of bad and good. You get what I'm saying? There's always got to be, that's why they said, look, there's a fine line between love and hate. Everything can happen even at a quantum leap. I can change my mind just like I flip a quarter. Changing my mind, I change my experience in that specific instance. You know what I'm saying? But death, for example, we're experiencing it all the time, but it's about changing yourself. If you look at it from the perspective of just situations in life, if you don't change yourself, you'll stay in the same patterns. You get what I'm saying? If you are coming into this realm and I'm saying, I want to die, but I don't want to reincarnate, what space are you coming from when you say that? Are you coming from a space of saying, I hate this experience, this is a debauchery, and this experience sucks? So what do you think happens? You're not complete, because somebody who's complete, that's why they say love is the answer to everything, because you accept the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And now you're not attached to none of these human level emotions of what you see in your life. So when you talk about judgment, the scales of Mayat and whatnot, you're judging yourself at the end of the day. You get what I'm saying? But how much attachments to this do you have? Somebody can live a comfortable, beautiful life and say, life is good. But that person can also come back here because they're so comfortable that they're always going to chase that light of comfort. So people say balance is key, but even in that balance state, there's no room for growth. Sometimes you got to go to extreme polar ends. And when you're at those extreme polar ends, it's not to say one polar end is good and one is bad, because we can go into the alkaline state and say, wow, this is feminine energy, cooler, generative, love, room for growth, right? But the opposite end of that, it's also frozen, stagnation. You get what I'm saying? But when you got the acid side, now you got circulation, blood flow, movement. When you're in hot water, don't you move? When you're in a hot seat, hot potato, you getting up out of that seat, right? It's going to force a change. It's going to force a move. Yet hot looks like it's looked at as bad. Like we got hell is hot and red, and then, you know, alkaline, cooler and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But there's negative and positives to each side, right? I guess the balance you would find would be in that zigzag, right? And find that middle point, the neutrality as the observer. But when you're in those ends, you still got duality that you're dealing with. It's just about finding that balance in those extreme ends and knowing when you need to switch the coin to your favor. I hope all that shit makes sense, bro.
Yeah, it does. It does. It really does. Yeah, because if you don't do anything and experience life, then what are you doing? You're kind of coasting through. I mean, you'd only, like they say, you only learn something if you fall on your face and fail. If you win all the time, are you really learning anything at that point? Or are you just
right? That's a good point. That's a good point, because from your failures, that's opportunity for growth. You learn from your failures, right?
Yes.
From your victories, right? You keep those as a memory as well. But I mean, there's always those two sides to look at. There's always perspectives you could look at when you're in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody could say being in a high vibrational state is the optimal way to be. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But you can't always be too high. Sometimes you gotta even intake low vibrational stuff just to ground. You know what I'm saying? What happens if
Mhm.
you're not grounded? You know, do you have any kind of stability if you're not grounded? You know, so you could always
Well,
look at it from different perspectives.
well, and that's the thing is some of these people who are here, you talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Think about the bad people out there that've done terrible things. Did they go around with the mindset, I'm going to be a horrible, terrible person? Or did they really think I'm being a good person? I'm doing what I should do. I need to do these things. I'm doing it for the betterment of man. You know,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Really, did they look in the mirror every day saying, "Ooh, I'm gonna be terrible. I'm gonna kill 80 million people. You know,
Right, right.
I'm gonna start a world war." Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that
really.
point up. So, and here's why. Because I've been talking about guys like Pablo Escobar, Charles Manson, all these people that I've been talking about on my channel for some strange reason. I felt like getting into those people because it's the mentality that kind of draws me to. But here's the thing though. We if we commit those acts that we consider bad, right? There's man-made laws to basically put you in situations for those consequences, right? There's cause and effect, right? But the people that, like, how many conspiracies do you see of governments being corrupt? And those are the ones putting out the same laws saying that you can't kill, you can't do this, yet we participate in wars, yet there's, pedophilia there's a lot of different conspiracy theories that you could go online, and I'll call them conspiracy theories just to protect the information on this
Mhm.
stream. But how many things do you hear of heinous acts just from the government? You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Now, when you look at guys like Pablo Escobar, he was just the type of person that basically created his own government. So when we look at the government, we could kind of say, when you look at the dollar bill, it says, "In God you trust." They govern your mentality. If you're not in charge of your own mind, then you're not God. You know what I'm saying? If you're mind controlled and you're not aware or conscious of what's going on, then you're not the God of this realm. You're still a servant. You know what I'm saying? A sheep to some extent. You're looking to something to answer your questions for you. If you're sick, you want to go to a doctor. And I'm not telling you not to do certain things. So I'm gonna make this disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor. You do what you got to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just making, some points here to put some certain things into perspective for you to think about, because we can actually exchange ideas here. So just don't think that I'm telling you what to do or not to do. But when you think about being sick, oh man, I got to go to a doctor, rather than saying, how can I fix this? Back in the day, we had something called homeopathic remedies. And the reason why I felt that was more of an advanced technology than what we do now. Because what happens is that back then we were using the complex chemistry of the land to basically aid us in homeostasis. Now, what they do, and they is still you. I don't want to put anybody in victim mode here, pointing fingers at nobody. I've made plenty of examples on this. But for the sake of conversation, I'm saying they. But they, the government, right? Which the
Mhm.
government is your mind for the trillions of cells. That's why when you see outside of you, what is the mind? The mind is the government that you seek outside. So if you basically start to see how this works, this is why I brought up the example of Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar had his own military. He had the police in his pocket. He had his own airport. Drugs, he was selling them by supply and demand because it was highly addictive. But if you look at the Food and Drug Administration, there's drugs in those food that make those foods so fucking addictive that they are actually drugs, to the point that if some people try to give up certain foods like sun drops and Coca-Cola, they can't. They get withdrawal symptoms. And if you look at the word Coca-Cola, it's called Coca-Cola for a reason, because coca was in there. The cocaine leaf was infused in the Coca-Cola. They may not do that now, but what do? If you dismantle the chemistry of the Coca-Cola, you will actually see that it's not beneficial for you. Even though they're not using that, they're using other things that are substitute of drugs, if to some extent. You get what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
So, for example, there's certain sugars that have a stimulant effect in your body that have the same effect on your brain as cocaine does. So go figure. You know what I'm saying? If you're not taking cocaine, but you're having the same chemical reaction as cocaine. You get what I'm saying? So now Pablo Escobar sold this. Was Pablo Escobar bad for selling the cocaine? No. he was a service to humanity. If you're a drug addict, right, and you have withdrawal symptoms and you need a fix, I have drugs, you have money, we do an exchange, I was just a service to you. We as humans say, oh, this is bad and good, right? But the Food and Drug Administration does the same exact thing. You know what I'm saying? The big pharma, big pharmaceutical industry with the medicines. We're not addressing root causes of anything. We're not saying if you have diabetes, how did you get diabetes? You must have been eating a certain way. There may be genetic weaknesses passed down from your parents in the family, but how do you reverse engineer that? You're not a victim of your genes because there's something called epigenetics, which means above the genes. That means that you, with your mind, the same way the placebo nocebo effect works in the pharmaceutical industry, that means that you can basically create, all the drugs are in your body already. You get what I'm saying? I can stimulate elixirs in my body to actually heal me better than the medicines that they're giving me. But some of those elixirs are stimulated through extreme conditions. So for example, hot and cold, if you do hydrotherapy, you may sit there, you get that hot as much as you can handle falling on your skin, and then that's stimulating an effect. Now you put the cold water on you right afterwards, what do? Now you're hyperventilate, but what does that do? That stimulates you to breathe properly, right? Breathing properly, now you're stimulating your body to an extent where you're releasing certain elixirs. Going through a rigorous workout where I'm doing squats, most of my testosterone is in my thighs. I can stimulate growth just by doing squats, and now I have these chemicals circulating through my body. And I'm talking this on a just surface level, because you could do yoga and it forces oxygen into certain areas of your body that normally don't get oxygen. If you don't get enough oxygen, what do you think happens? You're about to pass out, right? So whenever you go into a yoga pose, you're actually oxygenating certain areas of your body that normally don't get oxygen. So when a guy says, my penis is not getting erect, the first thing that you do is you try to go and find a supplement to basically make your penis hard. But in actuality, sometimes it's that your colon could be caked up. You know, you don't get proper breathing going on in there. You may be sitting too long. And I know a lot of truck drivers who have this problem is that they're sitting too long, their legs, you know, certain muscles atrophy, certain circulation is not happening, and maybe certain energies are not moving through the body due to an unnatural sitting position, right? So things like that. Now, supply and demand, when I'm talking about being God of this realm, you could do it in a way where we perceive it to be positive, or we could do it in a way where we perceive it to be negative. However, if you're doing it in a way like Pablo Escobar, you have to understand that the same way Pablo Escobar had the cartels and the mafia, the government is also the cartel and the mafia. So what did Pablo do to cartel members that were basically trying to oppose him or compete with him? He eliminated the competition. So when you see certain people magically disappear, that could be a cause of that happening, is that you're fucking with your business. The guy who invented the car to run on water, okay, what happened to this dude? Stanley Myers, right?
Weird.
He was in a restaurant. He came out, held his throat, and said, they poisoned me.
Oh yeah, that's the
Mysteriously just died, right? But the car that ran on water, what was it doing? That car that was designed to run 21 gallons coast to coast, bro. I'm talking about from New York to California on 21 gallons of water, bro. And he said it doesn't matter what kind of water you use. You can use seawater, you could use faucet water, spring water. Man, you could take a piss in there, and I think you could use that as fuel. You get what I'm saying? But what did that do? That messed with the oil business. Motherfucker had to go, right? The oil business. Now, the pharmaceutical industry, big pharma, right? Biggest legal drug dealing businesses on the planet, right?
Yes.
But, hey, these are my opinions. But check this out. Guys like Dr. Sebi, guys like Andreas Moritz, certain healers or certain people that actually knew the chemistry very well, you fucking with big business, bro. They had such a big influence, they got to go. Now, here's the thing, though. There's the evolved way of doing it, and then there's the de-evolved way of doing it. And I'm going to get to this point, and then I'll let you talk. I'm not hijacking this whole stream, bro. But check this out. The de-evolved way of doing it, if you eliminate the competition, is physically killing somebody, right? Or you could just say there is no competition, right? Because you know you're so beyond this human experience that you know and feel to your heart of heart that there is no competition. So that's a way to eliminate the competition. You can kill an animal, right? And then you got vegan activists saying that you're committing murder when you eat animal, right? But every time a vegan activist goes and debates a carnivore, right? He's doing exactly what the carnivore supposedly is doing, killing that animal. I'll tell you why. because you're nothing but ideas. You're a thought form, right? There's people who say, I am a vegan. I am a vegan activist. You're already labeling yourself that. So that means that's what makes you as an individual. When they ask you for an ID, don't they say, give me your identification? ID is an idea of what you are as a person, your face, your name, and the walking virus that you are. Now, as a human, you take labels and label yourself with that and you associate with that, right? So now what happens if I debate a vegan and I smash him in that debate? I literally murdered him. Why do you think they say, yo, Zigzag, you killed it, bro. Good job. You owned that. You owned him, right? Now I just owned him. I killed him. And not only that, but if your body consists of trillions of cells, do you know how much murder I've created putting that person under stress, putting that person under, cornering him to a wall with certain philosophies that he was coming out that I was challenging him? The embarrassment that he may feel afterwards. You think that you're not experiencing multiple deaths in your body through that process? So the reason I even bring that up is because I made the example in my video where a couple of cats were killing a mouse in my garden. Now this mouse was trying to escape, but they were torturing it. The mouse was trying to get away and they did not let this mouse get away, but they didn't kill it. They kept torturing it, pouncing on it, flipping it up in the air, stabbing it, doing what I'm talking about, raping the shit, right? So now here's what happens though. We label that and say that cat's a murderer, but the cat doesn't know it's murdering anybody. The cat's just doing cat things, right? So what do you think humans do when they're doing certain things? That's why they say humans not know what they do. You're maybe doing the same thing. That's why it's not good to point the finger or judge, because you may be doing the same thing just in an indirect way. It doesn't have to be a direct mirror. You know what I'm saying? It may be an indirect way of doing things. But don't forget, the same way you're more evolved than the cat, right? The cat is doing something and it's not aware. You're doing something in an evolved way that you're not aware of what you do, and something more evolved than you, right? May be aware of what you're doing, saying, look what this murderer is doing. Yet you think you're doing something good. You really ain't doing shit. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's good to just kind of like look at things from the perspective of taking accountability and responsibility and saying, why am I pointing the finger at that? What am I doing that's mirroring back what I'm doing? I'm sorry for the long ass rant, but I had to get all that point across to know the death processes and stuff.
Oh yeah,
because it's all about death, right?
It is. It is. I totally agree. The thing is they've been doing this for thousands of years. You know, I've been reading about the Mayan culture and the Aztecs and stuff, and they would you know, honor the gods or do things. They would kill hundreds of people, and people would line up to, you know, get sacrificed, you know, kind of thing. And yet, if you go back, and that wasn't the only culture, if you go back into the other cultures, like in the Asia and stuff, they would murder, you know, bring your baby along, you know, a firstborn, you know, you've heard those things. Let's sacrifice so many babies or something so that we get a good harvest this year. Well, who, you know,
that wasn't Asia. That was Europe.
Europe. That's it.
No, that was the oh God. Hannibal was I forget. Yes, it was Baal. It was Baal, the firstborn. Yeah, and it was I cannot remember the race, but they fought the Romans. But but yeah, that was not Asian thing. That was definitely a European thing.
I'm thinking it off the top of my head. Sorry, but yeah, see, I get things wrong. Glad you could clarify, because sometimes I go too fast. But you're right. You know, we do things today that are kind of the same way, but we just don't think what's good and what's bad. You know, are we thinking with our right mind? Are we making good decisions? Really, are we? But that's just what society allows us to do, because so many people agree that's the right thing. Then it has to be the right thing, right? And that's what it boils down to. If everybody agreed that you know, everybody over 75 should die, well, and everybody shook their head and said yes, well, then it would be the right thing to do, and nobody would question it, right? And be like, oh, you're 75, well, I guess, you know, off with your head. Well, okay. You know, but it's
sorry to, I see one. I want to one comment I was actually looking at over here.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
Caballero says the molecules in a body are replaced slowly over the course of 5 years. In that sense, we do die constantly, but we are born at the same time. So that's the whole thing. So the same way there's constantly people dying on the planet, there's still people being born on the planet. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It's like that mirror effect. That's why I said every time I see, you know, there's stars that die up above. They're dwarf stars, and you know, sometimes they go supernova or whatnot. It's just like as above, so below. But it's like you have these cells dying, but they're being replaced. It's the same exact thing that's happening outside of you. But the people that you meet are the people that you are. Those are the people you attract. To some extent, they are mirrors of you. You get what I'm saying? So I like that. I like that. That's what I said. Now it says also here, and are we dead when they call one dead? Well, you know what's interesting? Why, when you die, they say they go to your wake? You get what I'm saying? Like, why are they going to your wake? What are you waking from? You get what I'm saying? But then again, we supposedly are dead, but there's certain words we use, and we actually ask, well, why do we use these certain words? You know, I feel the body is a tool. You get what I'm saying? But if we do not use the tool properly, right, or we didn't use it for the purpose of what it was used for, it's just like, what is the point of saying that we are evolved species, or we are God, let's say God domain over this planet, if we are not exercising that power? You get what I'm saying? Like, what was the purpose of that? That's like having the most advanced power tool, but it ain't shit unless I pick it up and use it, right? So, like, I also spoke on my videos about how the pyramids were built and whatnot. You know, even decoding how they even tell you that information is crazy. You know what I'm saying? They tell you they use certain tools, but at the end of the day, if you really decode it, it's no different than reading the Bible and decoding the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take it literal, you're actually going to have a different perspective. And what you're doing is externalizing the power that you have based on that book that you're reading, because you're told it was written by man, inspired by God. But it ain't no different that if I am inspired to write a book, you're literally reading my Bible, because when I write a book, I have an inspiration, but I was inspired by God. And I am that God that walks as above, so below, or as within, so without. You know what I'm saying? It's not to say that I am, you know, better than anybody. We're all equal, you know?
Where did that thought come from? Where did those inspirations come from?
Exactly.
What they came from? Oh, and everybody, well, it came from you. You worked hard, and you learned, and it's all up here, you know. But it is because we live inside this body, and when we're not inside this body, then we go somewhere else, and you could be there too, you know. So that is good. Oh boy, we had quite the. Max Vision is going to do his remote view class. Everybody, you know, if you haven't checked out Max Vision, get right on over there and check him out. He does a great remote view class, and you will learn something. Don't forget, Nina's saying universal consciousness. Absolutely, the universal consciousness, which we're all part of, but we have our own individuality from that too, and we're still learning on that too. But I want to thank everybody for coming in, man. We've had a full crowd tonight. I think
like the video too, man.
Yeah,
like the video, man. If you enjoyed this, like the video.
Absolutely, like and share it. But anyway, yeah, go check out Zigzagzilla's videos too. I'll put a link in the description after the show. I forgot to do that. I was in a hurry. But anyway, he's got a lot of good information over there. Talks way more in depth on there. And you're coming out with another video here in the next day or two about all this?
I'm gonna upload it tomorrow morning. So it's a pretty detailed video. And I even felt that was channeled to some extent, because I had to listen to it again to see what I said. But it wasn't that I lost what I was saying. Like, it's not like I left and said I didn't remember, but I felt like I was in such a flow that it felt like it was like channeled through me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a great. I don't want to post it today. I'm just gonna post it tomorrow morning. But I think that you'll enjoy it a lot. So be on the lookout for that.
We'll be doing that for sure. I want to say, we got lots of people in here.
How many people we got?
We've had almost 26 people in here tonight.
Nice.
A few of them left already. I think they're heading over to Max Visions. Healing music tracks. He says, who or what created the creator? Good question. Gaza's in the house. Gaza's backyard. Hey, Gaza Cavs, all the way from Australia there, joining us tonight. Julianne Margaret, there, where, he, her, were here. Yes, you are. Take good care of that grandkid. Grandpa Brian, he says, wonderful night, everybody. Nina the Mystic, who I'll be joining tomorrow on Nina's show. Scotty Boy's is in the house all night tonight with a lot of common sense. Chief Remeldian, Olympus, thank you for coming. And let's see, Pamela Jean. Someday I'm gonna have to get you on the show for sure. Not unicorns and rainbows. Thank you for coming. Haven't seen you here before. El Calabero did the molecules of the body thing. Thank you for the good questions. Michelle Can-Am Free, our love child, who comes in and visits us all the time. Mary wins, we all win. Diane Martino joined us, and she says, true, that about the breath. She's all about the breath. Remember a few weeks ago, she joined me on the show, and we talked about breathing in and breathing out. We're going to have her back again. All good. Genevieve's in the house, and Posey. Let's see, I hope I didn't miss anybody. Regine Huttelson, the book 33. Thank you for coming, everyone. Let's see. I think I got everybody else. Max G, Joanne Dancing Gypsy. Oh, well, I think I hit almost everybody. Anyway, but thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Zigzagzilla, you got anything to top it all off with tonight with all of this?
Yeah, so when we say we were talking about living in the multiverse, just to top it off with everything, as far as like we were talking about the cells and the mirrors of everybody, just look at it like this: everybody you see is in you. That's the reason why it is a universal consciousness. It is a multi-dimensional experience, but you are that multi-dimensional being, and they are all expressed through you depending on the space that you're in. Again, the spirit you get into. You get what I'm saying? Outside, within, however it is, the influence, motivation, emotions is all rising within you. You raise an energy, right? But all that energy is based on influence of the stars. Influenza, flu. I could be influenced by people outside of me. I can look at chats and get an influence. So this is why we are living in the multiverse, right? We have parallel realities, or let's say there's a different version of you. And you can just basically, again, setting your mind like you set an app or a computer, boom. I mean, you basically can experience whatever you want. That's how you are. You could be a conscious creator or you could be an unconscious creator, but it just depends on, the decisions you make as a conscious creator,
Absolutely. Lucky, what do you got to say with all of this?
It's just a lot to unpack, and sometimes you got to watch these shows a couple times. And if ever anyone feels like they're a little bit lazy, it might be time for you to take some time and be lazy. There's a lot going on in the world. And sometimes we kick ourselves for not doing enough when really it just might be we need the break so we can do more later. I meet a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I feel so worn out. I feel so lazy. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's probably time for you to rest. And there's a lot going on in the world and it's influencing us. Maybe even if we cut ourselves off of news, it's still going to be trickled towards us. So in the news of the world, it's not all that bad, but the bad news gets to us and sometimes it wears us out.
Absolutely.
And
sometimes I see the problem is in the fact that we feel like we always have to do something. You know
That's
how
true.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the moment I wake up and realize or just get into this energy that you're nothing, you will start to experience more or less the opportunity to be everything, because the moment you feel like you're something trying to accomplish something, you're limited to just being that something. When you could be nothing, you could be anything. And instead of just being anything, you could be everything, That's why they said like everything has got that polar end, but feeling like you have to do something, it's an emotion that keeps you attached to something. You get what I'm saying? And that's what we're trying to break out of. And sometimes when you feel like we have to unpack so much, it's just like eating, bro. You don't overeat. You just eat to the point where you can digest, process, poop out the waste, don't hold a belief system, and just absorb the nutrients. Your body's smart enough to do that, right? So us as a conscious person, we could just take bite size. That's why if something's too complex, somebody can say, let me break it down for you, and then it could be better digestible for you. But then also you got to sit on it, process it yourself. The information literally becomes you and personalized. And then from there, it starts to connect dots, and it starts to connect with all the universes within you. And that's how everything just starts to make sense. That's basically more of what we would call common sense, right? Because we use common sense outside, and not even people don't even have that common sense outside anymore. So the common sense will be the senses we forgot we have, which are extrasensory sometimes, not the ones that we are with this physical limited reality of just 5 senses. We have many more that we can exploit. And if we exercise them, then we actually have the ability to, with an open mind, receive and even give more,
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And El Calaro, I screwed that name up. He says, please continue the stream, but don't worry. You can watch tomorrow. Zigzag will have a whole thing up, and he'll have the whole information on there, won't you? It's going to be great. Go check him out. And I'll be listening for sure. And everybody, just thank you, both of you. Thanks for coming on tonight. This has been a wild and crazy night, and it was great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We've been talking so much about this stuff, and I think you cleared a lot of it. But I think you're going to have you back on I'll have some more questions and clarify some of this stuff in the future, especially after your next video.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But anyway, remember, everybody, go out, do something nice for somebody, because we're all one people somewhere down the line. And like we said, we affect somebody else, and we're just in the middle somewhere doing our thing. And, go out and be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. And that's what it's all about. Okay.
I appreciate both of you, and I appreciate the chat. I really am grateful for, and thankful for everybody showing up and participating in the chat. Thank you.
Oh, yes, they're wonderful chatter. I got a great crowd that comes in every night. And don't worry, tomorrow night, Nina's channel will be doing it again over there with universal consciousness and all of that. So it'll be great. Check her out or me out. I'll be right there. Okay. Peace, everybody. And